What is up, everybody? Jeremy Eisenfire here, and welcome to the channel. And today, I wanted to discuss some breaking news that has been recently making the rounds regarding Shogun and the potential return for a Season 2 with Hiroyuki Sanada reprising his role. Information has recently surfaced that Hiroyuki Sanada is in talks with FX Networks to potentially come back for a second season of Shogun. And today we're going to talk exactly about what that could potentially mean, and where exactly they could take the story going forward. Now, of course, Shogun is based on the James Clavell novel of the same name, and chronicles the rise of Toranaga to becoming Shogun and a nation on the brink of war. And first off, of course, there is the question of where exactly they would take a Season 2 of Shogun, especially considering the first season covered the entirety of James Clavell's novel. But Shogun is in a very unique situation, as the novel was based on the real-life history of Tokugawa, whose full history the series barely begins to scratch the surface of. And when thinking about a potential storyline for a second season, there's really two good possibilities that they could potentially go down. One, of course, being continuing the story right where it left off, getting into the Battle of Sekigahara and Toranaga actually becoming Shogun and his rule. After all, the end of the Shogun TV show had a little bit of an anticlimactic ending for some viewers, as not only did they not actually show Toranaga becoming Shogun and what happens afterwards, but they also famously skip over the big battle of Sekigahara, a decisive win by Toranaga which leads to him becoming Shogun. So one possibility, of course, could potentially be starting Season 2 right where Season 1 left off, not only showing us the big climactic battle, but also showing us what happens to Toranaga after he becomes Shogun and some of the decision he goes on to make sure there are no other challenges to his rule. And while I won't spoil it here, but there is a whole other subplot between Toranaga and the character of Ochiba and her son that the show could easily adapt, a story that gets a little bit dark. And then, of course, there is also the reign of Tokugawa itself that they could easily draw on, a reign that lasts for a period of about 3 years before he relinquishes control, and would certainly give a second season much more time to adapt the relationship between Toranaga and Blackthorn that much further. And then, of course, there are some of the drawbacks to continuing this story where Season 1 left off, the main of which being characters like Yabu and Mariko not being in the series, especially after being two of the most popular characters on the show to begin with. Which leads me to the second possibility for a Shogun Season 2 and where they could go story-wise, and that of course being a prequel. Just like there is a ton of real-world history that they could draw on about the life of Tokugawa to continue his rule, there is also just as much material that they could draw on regarding the events that lead up to Shogun, which of course would give them an opportunity to not only bring back characters like Mariko and Yabu, but also other fan favorites like Hiromatsu and Fuji, and maybe even diving into some of Toranaga's other sons, which the series itself even alluded to. But of course, doing a prequel might eliminate the opportunity for them to bring Blackthorn back as well, as he is of course not involved in any of Tokugawa's history until the events of Shogun take place. I suppose they could always draw on some of the history of everything that Blackthorn went through leading up to him washing ashore on Japan, but there really isn't a whole lot for them to dive into there. Doing a prequel might unfortunately cut out the Blackthorn character entirely. And then of course there is also a question of quality control. Season 1 of Shogun had a phenomenal production quality from top to bottom, from writing, casting, acting, set design, all of it was just absolutely superb to bring this world to life. If they are going to commit to a Season 2, they have to make sure they maintain that same level of quality storytelling, which could potentially be a bit difficult to pull off. It seems like the stars perfectly aligned for Shogun Season 1 to be as good as it was, between the merging of the Western and the Japanese crews to produce this very unique and in-depth look at the feudal era of Japan. And the show's commitment to authenticity was one of its biggest achievements in Season 1, so if they are going to have any chance of replicating the success that the first season has, they need to bring that same level of production quality. But either way, whatever ends up happening with a potential Season 2 of Shogun, I will certainly be keeping my ear to the ground and keep everybody informed, so make sure you are subscribed and hit that bell for all notifications. And definitely let me know down in the comment sections, which would you rather prefer? If Shogun does come back for a Season 2, would you like to see them continue the story right where it left off? Or would you prefer a prequel? But that is going to do it today. Just a quick breakdown on some of the breaking news regarding a potential Season 2 of Shogun. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit a like on your way out and consider subscribing to stay up to date on all of our future content. And as always, I want to give a big thank you to everybody out there for watching, and a huge thank you to all the channel members, and we will see you on the next one.
There's a saying out here, every man has three hearts. One in his mouth for the world to know. Another in his chest, just for his friends. And a secret heart, buried deep, where no one can find it.